Well, hello guys, welcome back. You might want to grab some coffee. Look at the counter. This one might be kind of long if we can record without any other god pinning my ears back. Let me explain. I was starting a video on why do we, and this can cover pagans, Wiccans, witches, theistic Satanists, progressive Christians, almost everyone on the planet. Why do we still behave if we come to the conclusion that there is no hell? That there is no hell, it just doesn't exist, that there is no equivalent in whatever spirituality or religion we practice, that there is no hell, that we all either go to heaven or wherever we think we go. Why do we still keep being good people? And I had dovetailed in how do we stop using our gods as an excuse for bad behavior, because we think that bad behavior is going to get us into heaven and get us further away from hell. Bad behavior would be, for example, attacking other people because you've been taught that their belief system is wrong. That's bad behavior. We all know that. It's very juvenile. It's very childish. It's like being the class snitch. It's not something we want to aspire to. Well, I got really spicy. I got extremely spicy. And there are times that Loki agrees with extremely spicy and he cheers, and then there are times he pins my ears back. And I heard this kind of clinking glass, clinking metal sound, and I thought, oh no, what fell down now? And I paused the video, and it sounded like it was in here, and I went and I checked everything. Nothing falling down. Went in the living room, went in the bathroom. I even went outside on my porch. Nothing. Nothing had fallen, nothing had exploded, a bulb hadn't went. It was this weird sound, but it was like, you stop that. I knew the moment it happened that someone was telling me no, because of the kind of spicy, kind of agitated method that I was using to approach it. So one of the ways that we behave is that our gods tend to bring us up in the here and now. Now, there are Christians that experience the same thing, and I'm saying this because I know we have Christian lurkers, that their God or our gods or whomever will bring us up in the here and now. We'll be doing a wrong thing, and we'll kind of know we're doing it wrong, but we kind of justify it because we're animals, okay? We're animals. We're talking monkeys, as Lucky likes to say. And we justify doing the wrong thing because, well, that person did the wrong thing to me, and that's how I was justifying being kind of an ass clown. And Loki's like, well, that's insightful and truthful. That's weird for you. Yeah, that's true. Very deep person, to be totally honest. I'm not usually that deep. Anyhow, Loki's response to that was, I don't care what that follower of that god did to you. You do not speak to God that way. You do not speak to... I heard it again. You don't speak to God that way. You don't speak to Jesus that way. You don't speak to any divinity that way. And don't let me catch you doing that again, because remember who you represent. And da-da-da-da-da-da. I didn't get that at first. I just got that scary noise. I swear I just heard again, but nothing has exploded, so I think I'm okay. I made sure I got all the breakables out of the room, or at least put somewhere safe after I had that incident with the heart. The broken heart. I'm wondering if that was a message from the beyond, because the string, the good string I had it hanging on, is still up there. I have no idea how it broke. It must have almost lifted up because the string is still hanging there. True story. Anyhow, I pan the camera over, but I drop it, you know that. Anyhow, it's one of those things. We get answered in the here and now, and I just lost track because 2 strokes that we know of. We get answered in the here and now. We get, hey, don't do that. You're hurting my feelings. You're hurting that God's feelings. And I did apologize. I said I was sorry. It's natural to react when someone attacks us in the name of their God, to go, yeah, well, I think you and your God are good. And to really let them have it and let their God have it too. What the hell am I hearing? This one sounds like a wolf howl. Somebody's back here having monkey shines, or I'm having some kind of breakdown. I'm not rightly sure. Anyhow, well, the neighbors do have a dog, so, you know. Anyhow, it kind of reminds me of a certain leader that totally lost it and had people go down and stab the ocean for a while. We'll look silly and foolish, and we don't hurt the god. That didn't hurt Poseidon whatsoever to go down and attack the ocean. We can't hurt them. They're not physical. We can't hurt them. We can definitely, most definitely, we've all experienced hurt them emotionally. We can disappoint them profoundly because they've taught us better and they expect our best from us all the time. I'd like to say sometimes they're not realistic because I looked at Loki one time and I said, have you even met humans? We have to be warned that coffee is hot. He thought about that for a long time. I said, we have to learn stoves are hot either by being told or putting our hand on it. We reach towards it, we feel the warmth, and yet we still touch it. I said, then we put our hand in our mouth. I said, we're not the best and the brightest you've ever created. Yeah, think of that for a while. He went, yeah. Um, so we're these silly little monkeys. And we're the only species that we know of that has philosophy that we know of and has an idea of having some kind of moral code, whether that's built on Judeo-Christian code or a pagan code or your own. I basically follow my own, which is, as far as I know, all I'm required to do is be a decent human being. But however I see that, not how Judeo-Christians see it, not how maybe you see it, not how the gods would see it, but how I see it. There will be times when I won't know what the right moral choice is, and I'll go to Loki or Odin. And they're not going to give it to me. They're like, what do you think is the right moral choice? And sometimes it seems like there is none. Sometimes it seems like, it's this thing over here, but I really don't want to do that because it'll be, self-sacrifice or not getting what I want or something. Like, we all know that if you see a plate of delicious cookies, and it says take one, how many are you supposed to take? One, right? Or if you're really altruistic, none, because you're letting other person that might truly need that cookie have it, and that's really sweet of you. It is. It's admirable. I wouldn't do it, but it's admirable. I would look at them and I would think, this establishment has been open since X amount of time. They are closing at X amount of time. They probably put out X amount of cookies. I believe I shall take two. I am totally justifying taking more than my share because the X amount of customers before me did not take a cookie. And I try not to do that. I'll go, may I actually have a cookie? And they'll say yes. I'll say, oh, they look so good. Hint, hint, touch, touch. And they'll go, oh, take two. Nobody's been taking them. And then you can take two, and that's the right way to approach it, right? Some people would just open their purse, their bag, their man purse, whatever they're carrying, their shirt, and they would just dump it all in, right? And they would totally justify it. They would go, well, I'm hungry. I can't afford, cookies, whatever, this economy, And, the thing is, we don't have hellfire and little demons poking us with sticks to await us. And therefore, sometimes it can be hard to maintain a good path, especially when it seems like the gods confuse us. Because if you came from a very regimental background, which I did, where there's this huge list of stuff that's wrong and a sin, and you come out into this nebulous gray area where it's not so much as sin and virtue, it's just don't make Loki or Odin mad at you. Be good according to your own moral standards. It can be harder to know what you can get away with. Like horror movies and dark humor are okay up to an extent, but not to the extent where you'd make somebody feel bad or you'd make yourself feel bad. So it's this fine line. I walk like a drunken circus clown. Again, yeah, Becker. And it's one of those things that it's actually hard to pin down. And I don't think we ever will. And I think we all have to come to our own conclusion. I have told, and what I was trying to express, and I used far too disrespectful language to express it, was that, I'm at the point where I truly don't believe in hell. I don't. I don't believe in hell. I see the demons as old gods, and then we're at an interesting conundrum of, do I still want to work with them if I see them as old gods and not demons, and it's not a case of one final act of defiance to work with them? Do I still want a relationship? Of course I do, but it definitely has seemed to have died off when I've just said, I've come to the conclusion I don't believe hell is real. Um, that I could be wrong, by the way. I'm not saying I'm absolute or that God told me so. I could be wrong, but for me, I don't believe. And where was I going with it? I hate having a stroke brain. Um, demons. Oh yeah, it started reaching a point where I could have a conversation with God without having a panic attack or having a long list of this is why I'm still mad at you. And the trolls, the Christian trolls that I hate calling them Christian because they're exact opposite of what Christians should be. But the Christian trolls show up, and that digs up all that trauma, and that digs up all that resentment, and that digs up all that this is exactly why I left, and this is, you know. And then it takes a bigger person than I am not to point it out to God and Jesus, because trust me, when that happens, I make sure they know. And I make sure they know I'm not happy, and I don't always do it as gracefully as I could. Now, the thing to remember is we cannot blame the gods for the action of humans, especially in the Lokean community. Loki loves to get all the three-legged dogs and tailless kittens in the world and hold them close to him. And I'm including myself in here because I've been to the bottom of every barrel. And, as the song lyrics go, and it's kind of a thing that when he collects people like that, some people do try to work it on themselves, and they're definitely works in progress, and some people just double down on it. They double down on it. It seems like they go through a period where if they were having mental illness, they double down on it. They like indulge in it, float around in it. Or if they were having drug or alcohol problems, they double down in it. Sometimes I think he tries to rescue people that they go through a period of amplification. Some people can break out of that, and some people can't. I don't think he's cruel enough to do it as a test. I think it's just he's so high voltage when he's near you that he can amplify everything you do, good and bad. That makes sense. So, you'll run into people who are going through problems, and that doesn't excuse their behavior, by the way. I've been addicted to, I have the fine makings of an alcoholic. I've been told I was addicted to painkillers, but it was not like that dramatic Hollywood movie, me spaced out on the carpet having 8 bottles of pills open. It was just getting addicted to a painkiller I'd taken for too long. And I was told I was now an addict because the pain hadn't gone away. And I was like, okay. Uh, okay, if you say so. That was my big you're addicted to painkillers moment. It was not Hollywood, me being in a Hollywood mansion, zonked out of my mind, cocaine lines on the floor. No, it was just going into the doctor and saying I'm still in pain. The doctor going, "Have you considered you're addicted to those pills?" And I was like, "Oh." And then I stopped taking them. I was very lucky that that happened. I was very blessed. But, I also was very angry for a while, just like I was angry when I realized that the wine fairy didn't drink my wine for me. And, when you're going through that, you aren't the best person to be with. And so, therefore, Loki has a lot of people like that, or maybe they're struggling with mental illness, or we're all having an existential crisis right now, and we're all ready to become alcoholics and drug addicts, having existential crises and flinging ourselves in volcanoes because it has to be better than the back half of 2021. We're all like one bad day away from coming on in clown makeup and giggling insanely. It's not that bad, I promise. Um, so he does collect people like that. Odin too. Odin too. I've noticed the Norse gods all seem to have a soft spot for all the humans that the other gods can't reach, and they adopt them. Jesus has a good track record for that god too. But the Norse gods especially like to find the scruffiest, mangiest humans on the earth, and they adopt us, and they really don't do much more than provide gentle or firm or sometimes scary guidance in the right direction. They don't force us to go in the right direction, so sometimes we won't. Um, Odin is, permissive one moment and then very stern and leading the next. Loki was permissive all day long because I was kind of in a funk because it turned out they didn't even ship the groceries they promised would be here today. He didn't even ship them till tonight. So he was being pretty permissive because he knows I get worried. I don't like my routine to be changed on me unexpectedly. It upsets me and gives me anxiety, and I'm hitting the mic. But, once I started going too far, he course corrected me. But let's say we don't communicate with the gods that way. They could be course correcting you and you don't see it, or you just aren't registering it. You've never talked with a god or goddess once in your life, and you may never talk with them. Well, then, we can learn to do things like, there are a billion ways to communicate. I use Pinterest sometimes. I use the pendulum. People use tarot. People use Ouija. People use the songs on the radio. People use candles. They learn to read candles. People use tea leaves, coffee reads. Basically, anything on this earth can be changed into communication. Maybe you can communicate that way. And yeah, it does take time. Usually you tell people that and they're like, oh no, don't want to do it, because we live in the age of Instagram where they think that you're literally going to learn to do this in the length of a TikTok video. That's like a minute, right? So they're like, I'm going to learn to do this in 1 minute. No, you're not. Is it a minute or 10 seconds? I don't know. It shows you how old I am. But they think they're going to learn it in that amount of time. And it's like, no, you might work at it a couple months at least, to get really good at it, to a couple years. You might have a natural talent for something, but you're going to gain experience and nuances over time. Odin is finally coming to terms with the fact that I'm just not good at runes. I'm never going to be good at runes. He kind of grudgingly admitted it to me. He's like, you really are bad. Those runes just actually seem to despise you. And I said, that's why I asked you if I could buy another set. And you told me no. And I said, they don't seem to like me. And I don't seem to get, good answers with them. I said, the tarot deck, I'm fine with. But I said that, no, it just doesn't work for me. So that can be a way to find out if we need to course correct, or we can talk to the gods if you're not comfortable with the word prayer. You can I get asked all the time, how do you talk to Loki? Talk to him like I'm talking to you right now. Assume he's in the room. You don't have to talk out loud. You can talk mentally. You do that to yourself all the time. You think thoughts all the time to yourself. You know you do. And because you think, I should go to the market, I should do this, I should really go work on my classwork, I should do something. You talk to yourself all the time. You do that. Just meet at first and you can talk, and you can just talk that way, and you can get course correction over time, and you will realize it. Sometimes it's dramatic and spooky, sometimes it's not, but you can talk to the gods that way. If you like to use the word prayer instead, you can certainly pray to the gods and say, I need this. To me, I do have a little bit of difference between talking to them and praying to them. I consider it talking about 99.9 to infinity% of the time. I consider it praying if it's something really specific and really important, because I'm like, I really need your attention on this. I'm even praying to you. There's like a subtle, tiny, not really existing, but existing difference for me. It's like talking is talking, and even I could talk over a problem, like say, oh God, Loki, what am I going to do about this? And Loki and I can have a conversation. But if I want to pray on it, I will go pray to Loki, which usually makes him go like this, because I almost never do that. I'd rather talk to him. And he goes, I'm here, right? That's the reaction I always get. I'm like, yeah, but prayer works better. Uh-huh. And he just kind of looks at me. But, I think I carried it over because I was raised Roman Catholic. I talk to God at times. I keep it real with you guys. Talk to Jesus at times. I just see it as talking, but I was taught to call it prayer. So, it's a conversation with that chosen deity, or, whatever entity you're working with. And, we do get course corrects. Like I got that spooky series of things happening, or you might notice that, just natural consequences will course correct you. Like if you become a very mean-spirited person, you will hurt people you care about. You might not care at first because you're very wrapped up in your own self, but as time goes on, you'll start to lose relationships, you'll start to lose friends, you might even start to lose work, or, faith, or whatever other kind of opportunities. If nothing other than the fact that people tend to like people that aren't as mean-spirited, you might, come around to being, a better person overall. I didn't mean that we all have to become angelic, and we all certainly have room for being human and failing and having a bad day and being really mean idiots. But, we usually learn to course correct, if nothing else, that we notice that when we're nice people in general, other people are nice to us. when we do good things, other people are happy to see it, because I do believe we're fundamentally decent species. I just also believe that we're monkeys that would sit on the train tracks and just watch a train and go, huh. And, and then we'd wonder why we get hit by the train. We're just not the smartest species the gods have ever made. That smart species is hiding somewhere out in the woods and we haven't seen it yet. And it just has this, whatever it is, whether you want to think it's Sasquatch or something else, it just has this kind of way to watch us, maybe telepathy or like a magic fool or something, and just watches us and goes, they're still dumb. They're still fighting wars. Look at them. But yeah, maybe we have a spooky event that course corrects us. Maybe we feel the presence of a god and that course corrects us. That happens especially for a lot of Christians. Maybe you just get a sense of knowing. Loki is not a god that does guilt. He doesn't do guilt. He doesn't guilt trip people. But he has no room for guilt. He has room for, okay, you feel guilty, you feel wrong because you did something you feel was bad. Sitting down and talking with you about, was it really bad what you did? Because maybe you're feeling guilt about something you shouldn't, about like your sexuality, or, enjoying a drink or time out with friends. Or maybe you're feeling guilty about something you feel you truly should feel guilty about, like you feel you did something wrong. Loki doesn't do well with guilt, but he does do well with do better next time. Now that you know better, be better, It's like there's no sense you sitting around feeling guilty and ashamed. But that doesn't mean we get, off the hook scot-free. We still know we did something wrong. And I would say, the best course of action then is we can make amends if it's possible. If it's possible. If you would cause more harm to make amends, then don't do it. Don't do it. Honesty is not always the totally best policy, especially if no one knows you did it. And it would be better off for a relationship or something else, because that just came up in the Savage Love column, that, he actually told the person went and they had an affair, and of course they felt guilty, and of course they told their significant other, and they've been in the doghouse ever since because, whatever. And I expected him to say, the standard answer will be, yes, of course you cheated, and cheaters always cheat, and you'll cheat on your new partner. No, he said, you shouldn't have said that, because if they had no way of finding out, you put that burden on them. Almost, I don't know if he would have said in a way to assuage their own guilt, but it's kind of like they shifted the burden from themselves, feeling they did wrong, to the partner, and like, guess what I did wrong? And of course that caused a trust issue, but it turned out to be something that the writer, though I don't know if I agree, thought that the lady partner used to her advantage and used to police the person, but then he had to admit, as you sometimes do when you give advice, that he really doesn't know the situation because the person didn't tell him, like, they were also doing drugs, and they didn't tell him what kind of drugs, and and then he's like, oh, I really dug myself in here and maybe I shouldn't have said anything at all, but then it's too late, right? And it's kind of like that when people sometimes ask me for advice. It's like, you really didn't give me much to go on. Like, what are you talking about? There's a big difference between you promised Loki a cookie and you didn't give Loki a cookie, to you promised Loki this big involved thing and you never intended to do it in the first place, and basically you lied to a deity. In that case, you're on your own. It's like I tell you guys, we're all human, we all fall short, but it's not licensed to say to Loki, I'm going to get you this, I promise you I'll get you this. Then you get the money for it and you go buy shoes, not because you desperately needed money for shoes. You already have 20 pairs at home and you have enough money to buy 8 pairs on your own, but you just don't feel like giving Loki that thing. You feel like treating yourself today. Then we know that's wrong. We know that's wrong. If you ask the gods for money for something and it appears in your life, then you spend it on that. I keep double checking with Loki to make sure he is not in any way, shape, or form interested in that egg animal. And he's like, no, he's good. And I said, you sure, before I bought these kind of bribes for Odin to help with the wolves. And I know he didn't need them. It started off getting myself a high-end wolf I always wanted, and it morphed into bribe for Odin to help the wolves of Idaho. And, he seems amused. He seems amused. I think they know sometimes we humans try to do good and we fall short. So it was like halfway a purchase for myself, halfway a bribe for Odin. So I'm not even sure whose wolf it is, if it's supposed to be his wolf or it's going to be my wolf or be our wolf, then we'll co-parent the wolf. But, it's kind of an interesting question to ask ourselves. Why are we still good when there's no threat of hell below us, or, heaven to go to and play harps and, run around like crazy? I think you get the afterlife you expect. I think, that you get to be where you're meant to be, but I also think that they're not going to pressure us to take anything we truly don't want. That even if we warranted going to, say, Christian heaven, we wouldn't go there if we didn't want it. Even if you warranted Valhalla, you were worthy of going, the old man's not going to drag you there against your will. Probably not. If you'd rather be over here with Freya or be over there with Loki, or if you just don't want to be with any gods at all and you just want to spend all eternity surfing or doing the things you could never do in life, maybe we do that. I don't really know. My mom used to say, well, it must be nice because no one's ever come back. So there you go. Think about it. If you think about you being a soul in a body and you've left, and it's so good, near-death experiences almost everyone, unless they have, a bad experiences. It was great. It was wonderful. They didn't want to come back. They did not want to come back here. So, it's just food for thought to think about. I personally don't believe in a hell. So for me, doing the right thing is not always like the number one option, because there's no longer this idea of you're going to hell if you don't behave, nor is there this idea of you have to be good to get into heaven or heaven will be your reward. With me, hell backfired. Instead of hell being something that I wanted to avoid, I knew I was going to hell because I figured out I was gay. I didn't really know the word at one time. I was that sheltered. I truly didn't think women could be gay because at the time, only men who liked men and women who liked women, if they were portrayed at all, were portrayed as gay on cable and TV. So I really didn't know I was gay, but I knew there was something wrong with me. I was afraid I was like a lesbian. I didn't know pansexuals existed, but then I liked guys, so I wasn't sure what was wrong with me. So I knew I was going to hell with that because I was raised Roman Catholic. I knew I was going to hell for practicing magic. I knew I was going to hell for, according to like the other flavors of Christian I knew, for using a Ouija board. I was going to hell for talking to God. I was going to hell for ghosts. I was going to hell for UFOs. I was going to hell for drinking coffee. Going to hell for eating meat on Good Friday. Going to hell for all these other things. Going to hell because I didn't go to church enough. Going to hell because I lied in confession because I really don't believe in sin. So I just started making stuff up. I'm going to hell for a lot of reasons, but it's like it stopped making sense to me after a while, because I was like, they always move the goalposts, no matter how good you are. The church, not God, not Jesus, not the angels or saints, always move the goalposts. It's always a little more impossible, a little more impossible. And it's a game you never win at. And so it had the exact opposite effect on me. I was like, I'm already going to hell. I don't have to be good. So there are people that get like that. That's where you get some of those angry Christian style Satanists that they're going to go to work with Satan because they're already headed to hell anyways. Why not? Why not get to know the management while they're here? And that's their sincere belief. They sincerely believe in hell. They sincerely have had experiences. They're sincerely going to go there. So they're going to be the worst possible people on this planet. Some people are that flavor, but they think they'll be the best possible person, but in Satan's service instead of, say, God or Jesus. And, for me, it's just like, well, they must be old gods or something, because I really don't believe in hell, but I don't believe in the bipolar crazy version of God of the Bible either, even though some people have experienced him. I've been lucky and experienced a God of love, or a Jesus of love. But at the same time, it was never enough to just keep me with them. I've always had to roam. Always. It drives every God that knows me nuts, no matter how good things are, no matter how many blessings I'm getting, no matter how happy I am with Loki and Odin. I also want to go over here and talk to this God. And then, as much fun as I'm having with that God, I'm going to go over here and talk to that God. I'm a Gemini. We don't stay in one place for long. We're just roaming everywhere. Our afterlife will be roaming through all the afterlives, just poking around. So, that's just some food for thought. And if you guys like what you see, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye bye.